Now, that was a very interesting case study on challenging conventional medical wisdom in the age of data and disruption by Dr. Asad. Moving on, we've got a panel discussion who's going to be moderated by Dr. Tazeen Rizvi. And the topic is digital health data, leveraging technology for better healthcare delivery. Now, we all know data is the new oil and gold. So I'm really looking forward to this particular panel discussion led by Dr. Tazeen Rizvi. And the guests are Mr. Irfan Malik, Syed Munawar, Dr. Fahad, and Bilal Amjad. Over to you, Dr. Tazeen Rizvi.
And welcome to everybody who's listening. We are going to have a discussion on a very, very important topic, which is health data and how we can leverage technology to improve patient outcome using the health data. So my name is Dr. Tazeen. I am a clinician and a health tech advisor and a director for Zevin Solutions. Today, I'm joined with esteemed leaders in the healthcare industry who are using their expertise into using data for better healthcare delivery systems. I will quickly do the introductions. I'm joined by Mr. Bilal Amjad, who's the founder and CEO of Instacare. Instacare is a digital health company that offers SaaS to healthcare providers. Then I'm joined with Syed Munawar Ali, who's a head of clinical operations of IQVIA Pakistan. IQVIA is a provider of advanced analytics, technology solutions, and research using data. Mohammed Irfan, who is the founder and CEO of Zevin Solutions, a software company that develops tailored, innovative business solutions and are developing digital health solutions for the global market. And last but not the least, joining us from all the way from the US, Dr. Fahad Ahmed, who is a physician at Wayne State University, Detroit Medical Center, and is also the founder of Algorithmus, which is a startup that specializes in developing machine learning-based biomarkers to predict clinical outcomes. So thank you all for taking time out from your busy schedule to give your thoughts on this such an important topic today. I think in today's landscape of healthcare innovation and disruption, we all can agree that data readiness and availability is the key to systemic interoperability and is critical to accelerating healthcare innovation. So healthcare needs data which is clean, accessible, secure, interoperable, and that is accessible to all the users in the healthcare continuum of care. Now, new data-driven technologies are really changing the way the healthcare is given and also how the patients are receiving healthcare today, because data accumulated in these data-driven technologies such as smartwatches, digital wearables, intelligent monitoring devices that use machine learning are giving it an opportunity to all the healthcare leaders to produce healthier future for patients. So my first question that I will ask all of you is, how do you think access, use, and sharing of health data across systems can change the way we deliver healthcare today? So I would ask, why wouldn't I ask Dr. Fahad, why don't you start?
Well, I mean, thank you for having me. So the way I see it is data is the foundation for any science that we do, and most of our publications are based on data, and you actually need hard science to actually deliver you solutions, like the work that we do at Algorithmus and previously before that is completely data dependent. And the way you can actually share that type of data or have more accessibility to research scientists, like in the US, any patient data goes through HIPAA and has a research protocol, has an IRB in place, and that is how institutions work together by a joint IRB. That is how industry works with institutions. And this actually prevents unnecessary disclosure of patient information, but it also helps us easy accessibility to that data. I mean, it's a more deeper discussion when you're discussing about devices, because those are variables and those are patented applications, and the data that's being collected is usually owned by the company itself. How to access that data, that you would have to do a which is called a data sharing agreement, which of course has certain limitations to it. There's certain type of data that the company will not share with you, and but that does not mean that those data user agreements don't happen. They do happen, and there's some of the most innovative work, like blood pressure monitoring, heartbeat monitoring in your smart watches is being done through that.
Thank you, Fahad. So I'll move on to Munawwar. So how do you think data is changing how we take healthcare right now?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for giving us opportunity. Brother asking this, how the data actually, I must correct the word, like how the correct data, correct information, and
Yes.
the correlation between data and information. Actually, we have so many examples in past with our neighbor countries that the data was misused. The data was not corrected, that mislead the whole industry in terms of the research actually. So actually I am belongs to the research industry, so I am keeping all the parameters in my mind. Like I second Mr. Fahad, like there are a rule available, HIPAA is available, and I am thankful and luckily to like have the central IRB in Pakistan now. So we are following the HIPAA rules. That is not 100% following, but again we have the HIPAA rules with us. The second concern is like the data privacy and the ownership of data. There is a misconception that data belongs to the company. The data does not belong to the company. This is belong to the patients actually. The patient have right to control his data, and this is the time actually to connect everyone on a single platform to bring up a concrete data that will help us patients in by three ways. Number one, the patient diagnosis will be easy for all of us. The patient referral system will be controlled, like the patient will avoid duplication of the medicine or duplication of the treatment. The third, patient having a complete the history of its own treatment, so it will be very beneficial for him or the consultant as well whenever he or she want to visit any consultant. The last benefit of this centralized data is this, like a country like Australia, they are using a centralized data. Like the patient do not need to keep their patient prescriptions even with him. If the doctor consultant visited, if the patient visited the consultants advise any treatment, any prescription, any even diagnosis like X-ray or some other diagnosis in lab test sort of thing. So he do not need to carry the whole patient prescriptions and all the things with them. They just need to visit the linked pharmacy, the linked lab, and they have all the credentials with them, and they just need to give it their MR number or anything else. So we can control the patients in a way, like the patient having confident, fair enough on the treatment that they are treating by the right consultants. They are going on the right flow. So in Pakistan, I am foreseeing now we have the IRB, we have the central IRB, we have the regulatory authority Pakistan. Now this is the time to collaborate each other and initiate this work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Munawwar. I'll over to Bilal. In Instacare, how are you using data to improve treatment outcomes?
Thank you so much, Dr. Tazeen. Actually, I would like to answer your question with two different perspectives. One is from the provider's end, and the other one is from the receiver end or the patient end. So obviously, without a doubt, it's really important for the healthcare digital transformation to share the data. If we talk about the provider end, which is doctors or like any healthcare providers, so it is really important because one of the key challenges in Pakistan is the accuracy of diagnosis. And that's basically because of lack of information available to the provider. Usually patients don't maintain their patient histories. They don't have any past histories which doctor can study. And hence they just give them medicines. And after that, those medicines are so dangerous sometimes that they have a very fatal effect on the humans. So that's why this is really important that data sharing should be made more convenient between both providers as well as patient end, just to enable a secure patient experience. Then it is also important for the patients because like in Pakistan, we have seen that blood pressure patients and diabetes patients and hepatitis and TB, they are like growing massively. So for a person like me, when I'm at that young age, I'm taking care of my all these vitals, that how those vitals are changing day by day. So I'm using my own application InstaCare, where I'm maintaining my health records, and even we have vital charts option also, where we can feed the information and see the trends if there is any change in any vital history, so we can take better care of ourselves. And another thing I would like to mention here is a culture of Pakistan. Mostly, we have a very close family system, and there is one caretaker who's taking care of the entire household. So at that time, it is really important for that we should help such people, that they should have a tool where they can maintain their family health, so they can actually take care of the entire family through one single platform. And this is but how we are doing it in Instacare.
Okay, thank you very much, Bilal. Over to you, Irfan. How do you see, because you develop applications for so many different countries, how do you see data improving patient delivery? We can't hear you, sorry.
Hey, sorry, I wasn't
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here. Actually, I'll share some example with you that we faced recently. We were designing an application for a psychologist. So what we were doing is we were training an AI algorithm based on the data we received from that doctor. We trained the application so that patient can talk to that application through chatbot and relate his status and mental health with that application. And then on the other hand, we trained the same application with the data of that particular patient. When patient was talking to the doctor, we were recording the data through voice to text and feeding that data to that particular application. Now, when patient was talking to the same application trained on his own data, he was able to engage that application. He was able to talk to that application for a longer period of time, and doctor, on the other hand, was able to get close to accurate results. But when we were training the same, as I said, with the data that we got from the doctor, that accumulated data based on many patients, then patient was not able to engage himself with that particular patient. So what is happening is that apart from that data secure sharing is that data manipulation problem. When the data is not secure, data can be manipulated. And when you're training your machine learning algorithm bots on a manipulated data, then you can imagine the size of the damage that we can face altogether. All the efforts that we are doing in AI fields or in algorithms and everything, all the efforts are going in vain because of that manipulated data we have. Fortunately, that we have a few rules in US and UK, but we don't have any particular rules in Pakistan, in many other countries. But this is very, very important. I would say that if today, on the other hand, the healthcare providers are able to take some leverage the AI technology, the application and everything, because they have the data. But on the other side, patient cannot get the best out of the data because patient cannot train the application according to his healthcare status, which is, as a result, what is happening? I'm not getting accurate result that when should I see the physician, what should I eat, when should I start exercise, how much I do the exercise. And even in my organization, what we are observing is that your vitals are directly connected to your mental health. Mostly vitals are connected to your mental health, and we don't have any application that can give us accurate prediction. You need to do the walk, you go out and do the walk, go out and change your diet and all that stuff. So this is very, very important. If we want to empower the patients, if we want to help patient leverage the technology, we need to show data security and we need to control data manipulation.
Absolutely. And I think this is a theme that I see in all your answers, is that data is great. We all agree. Data has enormous potential. Actually, I would say it's the key right now to this digital disruption. But we are in that phase of where every day we see a new innovation or a disruptive technology, but there's still a massive deficit in framework and guidelines of data acquisition, data sources, data sharing, data consent. And that's not a one person's job. I think it's a collaborative effort of all stakeholders and industry leaders like all of you here. So who do you think is the most important stakeholder that can drive such initiatives of data management? Any one of you can, the floor is open.
Yes, yeah, I would like to answer this one. Actually, it should initiate it from the hospital level, because the patients, if any data company approach the patients will not give his consent to have this data until unless the hospital involved by themselves, and the patients having a faith on the hospitals, even more than a hospital, they have faith on the special consultant to whom they are visiting since quite long time. So it should be initiated from the hospital level by the collaboration of the data science company like Mr. Fan and Bilal having this company. So and the main stakeholder should be the National Bioethics Committee sort of thing. Those have unbiased policies with them, and to ensure the hospital that the data privacy, the confidentiality of data, and like how you are going to use the data actually, because in Pakistan, I second Mr. Irfan Malik, that in Pakistan we are lacking behind in terms of the policies and rules. But again, like we have initiated in 2019, there's a drug regulatory authority Pakistan. Those are taking care of this sort of thing. We have a National Bioethics Committee now. They have their own policies and rules and regulations. So just to connect with them, involve the hospitals, it will give support to so many sectors in terms of research industry, in terms of patients healthcare support, in terms of pharma as well. So these are the main stakeholder. But again, I would love to include one more point here. Like I always say, this is the right time to take the initiative. So we have lost so much time, but now students having very good command on the devices, like they have their smart watches with them all the time. So why don't we start some lectures with the universities level? Why don't we start a lecture from the school level, so they have something in their mind, like we can use this technology or make our career in this technology as well. So this
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would like to add one point here. It's very important that, as you just said, that education. Basically, yes, it is right that healthcare providers, hospital, farmers will need to step up. But I feel like it's our responsibility as well as a data science companies that we need to step up. Why we need to step up? Why we can take initiative as well is this. We need to develop an infrastructure. Let's say we're going to develop a blockchain. We're going to educate healthcare providers that what is the benefit here for you to put the data on the blockchain. Then we go and educate the patient that what is the benefit for you in this, and then go and educate the college and universities that why you should come and use that technology and how you can use that technology. If we take an example of Pakistan, we don't have any public blockchain where hospital can put their data onto, where patient can upload their data, or they don't even know how to use the blockchain. They're not comfortable with unless the providers are fully comfortable with the technology, they will always find themselves hesitated to take an initiative. And who can educate them? We can educate them, who are spending their time to understand the technology by diving deep into it. So we all together as a team, we need to step up. We need to develop a system. We need to educate all these things, make them comfortable, and then they will take initiative. It's a collaborative effort, but the education is a key factor here.
Yes, I can see Dr. Fahad has raised his hand, sorry. And then I'll come to you, Bilal.
Yeah, sure.
Fahad, you're muted, sorry. Could you unmute yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. So the way I see it, there are two levels to this. So there's a macro level and a micro level. The macro level is government level, private sector level. Like in the United States, we have a very strong private sector and a lot of funding from the private sector, multi-billion-dollar industries that are actually working towards this. So those are the two major players. And I think there, on a macro level, there should be involvement of the government directly, because without their infrastructure and without their approval, there's so much that only we can do in Pakistan, because we understand we don't have as much funding as people in the US, the private sector in the US. So we can do whatever whatever we can muster up, right? But at a certain point, the government has to be involved, and the way to get them involved is through grants that individuals can apply in Pakistan and out of Pakistan. Whereas the micro level then comes in, is the institutions, which include the universities, the hospitals that actually, that are actually involved in, which are basically the center of all of this innovation. And that is where the data is generated, and that is where we want to see change, right? Those are the outcomes that we want to look at. A patient who's coming in with, let's say, tuberculosis, we want to monitor him. We want to see his progress over these apps and over the long term. So I think that is very important. But again, this is micro level, and I think all of us, I think, are doing a pretty decent job of trying to create innovation in the sector. And I shouldn't forget the patients as well, and their education is key. And as it was mentioned that we need to educate them as well, how the technology works. Technical literacy on a lower level in our society is very low, and we need to address that if we want to have a very successful innovation revolution in terms of data science.
Absolutely. Over to you, Bilal.
I just want to add some work that has been done by government in the past few months. Government actually worked on data protection bill, which was actually drafted, but yet it has to be approved by the parliament, and it's still pending. But some work has been done on these lines. And similarly, a telemedicine policy has been drafted. But the problem with both of these bills and the telemedicine policy was that very few relevant stakeholders were included while drafting this policy. And I don't think so anyone from us who are sitting, and many other companies that I know, were invited to be a part of that. So since everybody have a very valuable knowledge that can be used to draft such policies that make like system-friendly policies. So I think work has been done on these lines, but relevant stakeholders need to be added while drafting such policies. And then during the implementation stage or implementation of these policies, I definitely a second opinion of Sayyid Munawar Saab that it should be started from the B2B level or hospital level, because it is easier to manage if we started from the government level or private level hospitals even. And as Dr. Fahad said, that data is the foundation. So it needs to be protected, and the right policies need to be introduced at this time with the right stakeholders.
Absolutely. Right stakeholders, I would say, is the key, because we are seeing a lot of resistance to adoption of technology. I wouldn't say only in Pakistan, I see it a lot globally as well. And that is because of lack of awareness and lack of inclusion of key stakeholders in the decision making. Not only after you've made a bill or you've created something, oh, take this and implement it. No, involve them. Try to educate them from the start, so you have a better chance of them coming on board early on. And then they can be your mentors and your voice to the larger population. So absolutely. So I think Irfan touched a little bit about it. I think this is something that I think we all, the world is moving towards, is blockchain technology. And I know that data sharing and the lack of transparency, the lack of security of data is a very hot topic right now. And a lot of countries are trying to come up with solutions. And blockchain is one of that emergent technologies that is advocating that they are safer, more transparent than the centralized databases. So my question would be, do you think blockchain is the answer to the current problems of data, lack of transparency and security? Irfan, do you want to start? You're mute as well. You're still muted. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a very important question, actually, Dr. Tazeen. Thank you for putting it up. Basically, blockchain is going to answer many questions and many problems. It is not all about security of the data. As I said, and Dr. Munawar said, correct data. And as I said, data manipulation is a huge problem. So blockchain is going to answer all this problem. How blockchain is going to answer this problem, I'll explain it at the end. But before, let me summarize the overall problem, the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this. Patients don't have any control over their data at all. We all know that. Blockchain can give control back to the patient in a secure, systematic manner. There are few third parties who can trade, track, and negotiate the data without any consensus from the patient. On the other hand, there are researchers, medical researchers, tech researchers like us who are developing algorithms, blockchains, and training the models and getting the best prediction out of the data. So the problem is there is a gap between all those four major stakeholders. The gap is this: the data secure and uncorrect data, unchanged correct data between all these things. So when I'm as a data owner, as a healthcare provider, as a third party, I'm going to send the data to a research wing, let's say artificial intelligence company, or maybe a medical researcher for the researcher, how I'm sending that data to them. What is the guarantee that the data is not fully secure and unchained data, and everybody knows about it? When we are talking about blockchain, there is a term in cryptography called zero knowledge proof, where one party can prove the validity of the data to another party without revealing the data. There's a very good technology. I can show that the data is secure, but I'm not showing the data to anyone. So as an AI company, as I said initially, as an AI company, if I'm going to get the data and the data is not manipulated, intact and accurate, what is going to happen is I'm going to get the accurate result, close to accurate result, accurate prediction, a good AI model trained on that data. The blockchain answers this question in a systematic manner because of the nature of the blockchain technology. Decentralized, distributed, I would call it distributed ledger technology in this conversation. I would call it distributed storage technology. So no one is owning the data, no one is controlling the data. There is no single point of failure when we are going to implement the blockchain. Yes, there is a lot of legalization can come on board, but when we distribute the data, decentralize the data using cryptographic algorithm and give control back to the patient, researchers, healthcare providers, they all have the data access at the same time, transparent, fully controlled, correct data access, and that can revolutionize the healthcare system. It is not about just security, but revolutionize the entire system, because everyone can leverage the data at the same time, accurate data, technology, patient, and health provider. This is where blockchain can play a huge role. Dr. Then you're
I'm muted. Yeah, thank you, Irfan. So that's great. So Bilal and Munawwar, how do you see blockchain coming in? When do you see blockchain will pick up in Pakistan? And if you see any initiatives being taken by companies?
Munawwar Sahab, if you would like to answer first.
Bilal Sahab, it is pertain to your domain actually. I'd love to hear you first.
I can add here one more point, as Dr. just raised a point here. I see one challenge here in Pakistan, particularly talking about Pakistan. If a third party, I won't name or categorize any third party, if a third party owning the data and they are able to trade the data, track the data, and negotiate the data and make a huge profit out of that data, why would they give that data to the patient, back to the patient, and saying that go and sell your data, take our profit? We don't want to make money. Yeah. That's a bitter truth, I would call it. We want to make money. So what we have to do and what we can do is this. We can create a win-win situation between farmers, hospitals, and patient. Let's say I can share my idea here. Let's say a small clinic, a pharma is having a 1 million record. 1 million record. So what they can do is they can trade, negotiate, and make profit out of those 1 million record. But there are other pharmas out there, other hospitals out there, they are having much more data than that. So what we can do as a data scientist, we create a system. You create a system when a entity, a third party with a 1 million record is going to upload their data on a public blockchain, and another entity is going to do the same, and another entity is going to do the same, then that means there is millions of data records on that chain, and the entity who are able to make profit from 1 million record, now they are able to get the profit from the 100 million records on the blockchain. So little coordination between patients. If patient is gonna trade the data, a little cut will go to the data owners. The third parties will get in small percentages, but they will get a lot money than they're doing right now. So basically, if we can develop the system and encourage them in terms of business, in terms of security, in terms of system, that patient will have the control. But if patient is going to trade his data, you're going to get something out of it. It's not like you're giving everything back to patient. And on the other end, patient can have something. This is a blockchain that we can develop here. And of course, we're going to need a lot of legal supports and all that stuff. That's my idea, that we are working on it. But obviously, this is not something a one entity can do here.
Thank you, Irfan. Bilal, do you want to add something?
First of all, thank you, Irfan. You have given a very brilliant startup idea. I think another startup is coming soon.
I think it's a collaborative effort. That's absolutely.
It is a collaborative effort, Bilal.
Is being, advocated as the answer to a lot of our problems. I'm sure Fahad is already working on it, working with it, I'm sure, right?
So I think if I would like to answer, first I would like to answer about the usage of blockchain in different areas of the healthcare industry, which we have learned over the past many years. We have partially used the blockchain for maintaining the identity of electronic medical records of the patients at InstaCare. However, I think there's a big problem in Pakistan that is related to counterfeit medicines or the fake drugs that can also be addressed due to with the help of blockchain, and that is very important right now because a lot of medicine mafia is working, which is producing fake medicine and people are taking without knowing if it is correct or not. Then another problem in this industry that I see is for the insurance companies for managing their medical billing and their claims. So that is also very important where the implementation of blockchain can be done. So it's really very important to leverage the blockchain technology, but I think it's a very long path if we consider the Pakistani.
Sure.
Yeah, because this industry is not digitized. So we have still, even after the efforts of past 3-4 years, I think less than 1% industry digitized in terms healthcare providers industry. I'm not talking about pharma, just the hospitals and especially the retail industry where there are clinics. So it's a long way, but we are on the right track. I think down the road, even in fact after COVID, these things have been escalated. So I think down the road we are on the right track, and blockchain will definitely play a vital role in fostering the digital transformation journey in healthcare.
Thank you, Bilal. I mean, I think we can go on for hours on this because I've just asked 3 questions and I just have a few minutes. So I think rather than asking a question, I'll leave the floor open to what you want to share before we close this conversation. And I will start with Munawar. Do you want to say something that we didn't discuss now?
Yeah, actually, I just want to give a suggestion to our developers. Like I used to work with the same industry since 2005 and having so many systems. So what I observed like when we approach to the clinicians, the doctors, the doctor used to ask us like, we are a doctor, we are not a IT personnel. You are coming with so difficult systems like here, there, and enter the data here and there. So it is making confused to us and taking so much time in terms of patient diagnosis and enter the data. So we need to go into their shoes actually, and we need to have a one middleman. Like if an IT company having a MBBS doctor with them or pharmacist with them, so they can easily understand what are their limitations in terms of understanding. So I observed like whenever we went with some some new softwares and applications, so they literally screaming on us and scared like what is next, because the technology is going going better day by day, and it is going secure day by day. So like the company from which I am belongs to, we are most compliance company and we won the award last year as well. So we are working technology like how to make it secure and user friendly for patients and for consultants and for our statisticians. So we onboarded some middlemen. Those are here to support, those are here to train, those are here just to give them a friendly interaction with the system. So if we hand it over a system and start presentation like we have a huge system, it is connect here and there, the terminology like blockchain, algorithm, and all the things. So I think so that doctors is user friendly to connect with these languages. So they might lose the interest, or they rather support you. They may creating hurdles in terms of supporting you. So we need to work with the person who can translate your language into their language.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is my suggestion.
Thank you, Munawar. Over to you, Fahad. What would be your closing points and something you want to share with us before we leave the conversation? You're mute, Fahad. I think that's happening to all of us today.
I'm still okay. I think we have a great panel, and I think we can actually talk for hours on this. But
absolutely,
the thing that I would like to share is one of the unique advantages that I had when I came to the US as a physician was I had a programming background, which is extremely rare in the US, even among US physicians. But what I did see is now what they're doing is their MD PhD programs. That means you can become a physician and you will also have a PhD. And they're doing their PhDs, maybe not a larger portion, but they do spend like a year in a core computer science lab. So in the US, they are developing these sort of professionals, but it's going to take them a few years to actually have MD PhDs with computer science backgrounds. But here's the thing. I completely agree with Mr. Munawar that, the physician doesn't understand what the programmer is thinking or the entrepreneur is thinking, so you need to have that a very close relationship with your physicians. And the way to do it is, the way I do research is I am involved in a lot of translational research and outcomes. For example, you had a patient who came in with trauma, and can you predict mortality at the end of admission? That's a very good question, because if you look at it, you're giving them a crystal ball that, this patient might die in the admission. So that was our first paper. We actually published we published a framework called Flame Framework, and we've done 3 of those frameworks, and 2 of them were in the US, and 1 of them was actually in Pakistan, data from Pakistan. And the way we did it was we call it quote unquote biological machine learning. So what we do is we leverage statistics to actually look at risk factors that actually predict outcomes. And can you use that data? The word we use is data refining. We do it through statistics rather than classifying, this might be associated with outcomes. So we need to work on outcomes. We need to work on mortality. We need to look at hospital stay. We need to, because it all plays into insurance, finances. It also ensures that the patient leaves the hospital with appropriate care. So I think outcomes research is very important, especially in the machine learning aspect of this industry, because very few people are doing it, even in the US. This is from experience that I'm talking about. And I've presented a couple of talks, and one of them was in University of Queensland, which was on the COVID paper. We actually published the world's first web-based algorithm to predict mortality in end of admission mortality in COVID from data from Pakistan.
Wow, wonderful.
So that is the type of innovative work that you need to do. So the question you need to ask is, what is the outcome that you want? What is the end point that you're looking at as a physician, and then work backwards. Then look at the risk factors. Then do the machine learning. So I think that's, for the data scientists, I think that's the way to go. And for the physicians who might be watching, you do trust data scientists. They may not know what you know, but they are they work with a good heart. They're trying to change the way things are done, and their attitude is positive. So and it should be a very collegial thing. When you have startups, especially in the US, it's very hyper competitive. It's everybody wants to be the success story, but you have to be grounded. You have to work on the real problems. And I think that's the way all of my research is. And I try to validate everything. Once we have an algorithm, we don't say that this is something that is very innovative, but we say we need to validate this. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahad. And I've been getting messages that I have to wrap up, but I have 2 more guests. So quickly, Bilal and Irfan, your last thoughts. Bilal.
Okay.
Or Irfan, go ahead. Any one of you.
Go, Bilal.
Thank you. So just quickly, I think Dr. Fahad would also he can acknowledge this, that Obamacare was the catalyst in digitization of healthcare in United States. So we think similar efforts in Pakistan as well, so that we can actually digitize physicians, because to collect all the data from that end is really important, because in the culture, in Pakistani culture, all the information is generated from that end. So we need to digitize that part.
Thank you, Bilal. And Irfan.
See, I'll just talk about one factor when we are talking about data security, data secure transfer. When we're talking about blockchain and AI, basically, we put it together in a way that it is a digital transformation that healthcare system is going towards. And when we are talking about digital transformation, the most important factor to start and to correctly implement that transformation is a mindset. When we are talking about blockchain, we are only talking about blockchain and AI, but it's a system, I would call. System is that starting from IoTs, blockchain, AI, and cybersecurity. AI cannot secure, a blockchain cannot secure everything. Blockchain can secure your data to some certain data, and then there is a data that you need to implement cybersecurity. So what is this? IoT that can feel, blockchain that can secure, AI that can think, and cybersecurity that can secure your overall infrastructure. So when we're talking about digital transformation, we need to go in, take all these four factors with us. And the most important part is the mindset. We need to, adopt that, understand that, and educate ourselves to implement all these things.
Thank you very much. And again, as I said, we can go on for hours. Let this be our first discussion to many more to come. So we can actually drive some meaningful change with this discussion and our connection. Thank you, Suhail. Thank you, Kaval. With this, I'll take leave. Thank you to everyone who was listening. And thank you again to my esteemed panelists.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.